Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today. I'm Rahim Rahimtullah. Joining me in our newsroom is Ukrainian Member of Parliament Mariya Ionova. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Hello.
You come here to our newsroom just in the wake of reports that Russian-backed separatist forces in East Ukraine have announced that they could use the death penalty against Ukrainian prisoners there. Give us your reaction to this news.
The reaction was represented by 8 members of the parliament and from different factions, and we have prepared such a draft resolution on appeal of Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine to the parliaments of foreign states and international organizations in connection, of course, with the threats to the lives of hostages held by Russian Federation. And we would like to underline that it's not a political question, because, of course, hostages, it's one of the points of Minsk agreement, but we think and we would like to recall international community that this is a crucial humanitarian question. It's not a political, and that is why, of course, Ukraine, by own, we are not able to solve this problem, and that is why we need support of international community, especially international humanitarian organizations, to support and to help us with this awful signal which we have got from as we understand, from proxies which are leading by Russian Federation.
Yes. So you're taking this very seriously. I mean, you don't think this is simply propaganda, this is just rhetoric. You think this could actually happen? Unfortunately, the war was happened, yes, and who could believe that like 2 years ago that we will have such new words in our world, yes, as a war, as a hostages, as children without legs, without hands, our heroes also like half a body, or such. I think that it's very dangerous and very awful words, but unfortunately it happened, and we also absolutely sure that the whole world has already realized of this Russian aggression, because it was started, of course, from annexation of Crimea. Yes.
But now, for us, the main important issue is 137 people who are hostages, and 10 of them are in Moscow prison, I mean in Russian prisons. And of course we know the famous name is Nadia Savchenko, who is a member of Parliamentary Assembly Council of Europe, and she has immunity. Yeah. And unfortunately all international law is violated by leadership of Russian Federation.
Yes. Doesn't Savchenko's case show just how difficult this is, though? She's been in Russia for more than a year, and despite all the appeals that we've had from the international community, she remains there. And many say she's more or less just a bargaining chip now in the war. Are the prisoners in East Ukraine also facing a similar fate?
Absolutely, and that is why for us this statement is so important, because it depends on not, I mean, of course, not the Savchenko and Kochenko and Senchenko. I mean, it's more difficult situation because they are in a foreign country, in a country which provides aggression to Ukraine. For them, you know, international criminal court is nothing, and that is why it's more complicated. But occupied territory, where we have around 130 people, it's our citizens, and international humanitarian organization can have an access there. That is why the president is raising each time when he has telephone talks and meetings with our leaders, European and international leaders. And of course, when we have meetings, we also ask to pay attention and, you know, not to be only concerned, because we really need and actions and the pressure of international community, because it's really very direct violations of human rights. It's a violation on Geneva Conventions, yes, when we have this Article 2, and so
the Ukrainian side is also bound by these rules as well, the Geneva Convention and human rights. I mean, there have been questions about prisoners being held in Ukraine as well, and if their rights are being violated.
Absolutely not, because I will tell you personally, I visited a few special provincial premises where people who has violated a law, and now they're under investigation by like separatism, yes. So they are in very warm conditions. They have connection with their relatives. We have met by accident a representative of International Red Cross and international humanitarian missions. They had more than 105 accesses and meetings with that people who are on the territory on Ukraine. Unfortunately, our hostages are absolutely, we do not know the place where are they.
Yes.
They do not have a connection with their relatives. No. We do not know their medical condition. So not even we, international community, international humanitarian organization, and you know that more than 3 months, even international aid, international like humanitarian medicine products are blocked. And that is why, of course, such signals as about the deaths, and we know how many cases of tortures we have,
yes.
and we had, and we will have, of course.
Where do you get this information from? Obviously, it is, like you say, very difficult to get into the occupied territories. And what are you relying on here to gauge the situation there?
We can rely only on the leaders of the countries, who can only press to the leader of Russian Federation, because proxies, they are not, they are absolutely can take a responsibility, and they are not who are decision makers, if I can say like this.
Yes.
But about tortures, about the conditions, of course, we had a lot of meetings with that hostages whom we released already.
Yes.
And they're telling that unfortunately, less quantity of hostages are there, more difficult for all sides in humanitarian group, which, for example, Irina Gerashchenko represent in Minsk. So it's more difficult to agree with the proxies and Russian Federation to get our hostages back.
Yes.
And the problem is that they are, for example, giving us to the list that people which we even do not have on the territory of Ukraine. Right. I mean, and they are giving us the names of that people which we are not asking. We even didn't know that they are hostages.
Yes.
And they are demanding from us such people who has made terrorist acts, not even in ATO zone, in Kharkiv, in Dnipropetrovsk, in Odessa,
yes.
in other Ukrainian cities. So they have such people in the list who are real
yes.
terrorists.
So, I mean, what it comes down to, it sounds like here, is a very fundamental issue of how you look at these people, how you class them. For example, Ukraine sees these people as terrorists, and they obviously are then subject to the law. Legitimately, whereas
legitimately they have now an investigation process. They have advocates, so of course they're waiting for the court. But anyway, it's
yes.
everything according to the law.
Yes, but I mean, I suppose on the other side of in the occupation zone, they look at these people and they look at them as prisoners of war. But presumably, these people won't be released under the Minsk agreements, for example, in that case. Because they're not, as far as Ukraine is concerned, prisoners of war.
I would like to tell you that we have only one document, which is Minsk agreements. There are 4 parts, and there is also a signature of Mr. Putin in this document.
Because
Russian president, because we all understand who controls this proxies and terrorists. We all understand that 412 kilometers of Ukrainian-Russian border is open, and we all understand that what we have in this 49 so-called humanitarian convoys from Russia to Ukraine. And unfortunately, we also didn't hear very loud, statements about this humanitarian convoys, where we know that there is a weapon, drugs, money, and other things.
Mariya, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're very short on time. I'll have to press you then. Finally, so going forward, refreshing the appeal to the international community, a new appeal to the international community to look into this question of Ukrainian prisoners. This is presumably a first step.
This is the first step, and we would like to pay attention that it's like a deal statements that they will kill people, and that is why it's a very it's a threat not only for Ukraine, it's the threat for the whole international also community and to European continent, because it's about security not only for Ukraine, it's also a security for for Europe, and that is why we really very concerned, and we really worry about what other steps they will have, because we are only confirming, and we are only supporting all the process which will be under international law, like convention during the conflict. So we are supporting such process, but not such signals as we will kill people. Like, we don't have already Ukrainian USSR, former USSR Republic. I mean, it was 25 years ago. That is why it's such a dirty games, if I can say like this.
Okay, well, Mariya, let's hope that we do see an improvement in the situation. We'll, of course, as you will be, watching closely. I'm afraid that's where we'll have to end our discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And one more number, which, sorry that I didn't tell it before, but unfortunately we have 694 missing people, and we also do not have, international Red Cross do not have an access to identify the bodies and to save relatives, that unfortunately. So it's a humanitarian issue, it's not a political issue, and that is why we recall for international community.
Absolutely. Well, let's hope that they answer that call, indeed. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've been joined by Mariya Ionova here in the Ukraine Today newsroom, a Ukrainian member of parliament. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thanks for watching. Do join us again.